My good people, good day. Let's do this. But this story, this chapter, and close this chapter, this unpleasant chapter for good. We are continuing, we are pushing on. The next part is he is released. The last part was he was arrested, he's in prison, and my baby was born while he was in prison. Now we are continuing with how it went further. So yeah, I was being supportive. I was visiting at the prison, bringing the baby after he was born. I was being the supportive wife. They were not having any evidence against him, so he was found not guilty, and the case was dropped against him. But the life I went through here. I'm living out so much because I cannot talk the whole day. I would want to make the videos also not so long, but I went through so much for this man. And now I told him during this course of this case, also the skeletons in his closet were exposed. I heard about his crimes, the drinking and driving and assaults and all those things he had in Germany. So now I was sure he was lying to me about so many things. Remember in part one, I said why I will come back to why these people are falling in love so quickly and so easily. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a medical professional in regards to disorders. I'm just going to share what I was dealing with. These men's lies were extreme. When he came to Namibia, he told me that he couldn't be in Germany because he didn't want to serve in the German military anymore. He was injured, and because of his injuries, he could not go on. And those were the same excuses he was giving for changing jobs so much. He could not stay in one job. He was moving from job to job, and he was blaming his injuries and so on. So later there was no confirmation that he was in the military. There was nothing. All I could hear was he was always arrested. Since he was a teenager, he was being arrested for drinking and driving and all those many things. I had so much was exposed during this trial and this time he was arrested. So even though he was not found guilty for the case at hand, being the B1 butcher, I found out so much that he was lying about. And yeah, I was just dealing with a pathological liar. In the beginning, I also mentioned I was feeling uneasy about the fact that he mentioned that he wanted to have my surname. So yeah, that thing also came back to play because he wanted to make sure when something happened, his surname will not be connected to the crimes he committed in his country, in Germany. So from the beginning, our relationship was based on lies. It was all lies. There was no evidence, no confirmation about the military that he served in. He was running from his criminal cases in Germany. So yeah, I was a changed person. Nothing was the same when he came out from prison. Nothing was the same. Nobody would be the same after such a huge incident. After going through something big as being labeled as the wife of a B1 butcher, a serial killer. It was horrible. Everybody was skeptic about me. They treated me like I knew something. They were blaming me. I was also threatened, as I said in the last video, and I was in constant fear and anxiety and depression and sicknesses. I had so many issues going on. So yeah, I told him if we had to go on, I found out he was an alcoholic since he was a teen. He was always blaming me for drinking so much. He came to my country, and it's because of me that he has to drink. He has depression. He's missing his country. He cannot handle the stress, so he's drinking. But that was a lie. He was always an alcoholic before he even met me. He was an alcoholic. So that was the biggest lie. Another lie was that He had a company. He had a company with a friend, and his wife and his partner, business partner, took over or stole the business from him. There was no evidence till today. There is no evidence that he had ever had a business. The little money that he was always getting was from the people who was helping him. Maybe someone she would beg around from people in Germany and he would get help, and he was behaving like his business partner was finally paying the money, or his salary was frozen in the bank in Germany, and when his salary was released he would be getting those little monies that he was getting. But those were all lies. He was a pathological liar. He is a pathological liar, and those are the significant traits of narcissistic people. People who are suffering from NPD has this lying thing. They always to lie about everything. They want to feel important. They want to be important. It's all about them. They care about no one else but them. During this case also, I saw that he was behaving like he's the center of attention. He's someone who is attention vampire. He likes attention. So he was behaving like he's so important. Finally, everyone is staring at him. His name is everywhere. He was behaving so important. And I didn't understand at the time. But once I started understand what is a narcissist, I understood that even negative attention, these people are just thriving on any type of attention. So this attention he was getting from the media everywhere, he was just thriving. He didn't care about the wife and the children at home. And when he came back, I was also a changed person. I said, now you decide if you want to be part of the family or you want to get out of my life. So he had to get treatment for his alcoholism, or he has to let go from me and my boys. Because now I saw this man was not supposed to be there at that cabin dancing and kissing another woman. A married man was not supposed to be there to begin with. He was not supposed to put us in that whole problem, the whole thing that changed our lives. He was not supposed to be there. We just lost everything, and because of him, we are now even worse than losing everything. We were labeled as these people who are part of these horrible crimes that were happening in our country. So he was not supposed to be there as a married man. He was supposed to be home with his pregnant wife and his little boy. But yet he chose to go out and party. So I was not tolerating this nonsense. For me, my understanding is in good and bad times, supporting each other in marriage, in good times and bad times, is things we cannot control. Things we cannot control. I will be a supportive wife if you lose your job, if you are sick, those things we cannot control in life. But someone going out cheating around, and I have to be now a good wife, supporting in good times and bad times. No, I told him I will not tolerate that nonsense. I'm done. I went through so much. I was not the same wife he left. I'm a changed person. And he came back, and I also was a qualified teacher. I started teaching. We were now living also in a better condition. Living condition was better. So, but I noticed that his ego thing was now starting. He was trying to put me down. Since I even knew about his whole story, everything, I knew about everything. So he was now changed. He was also not that respectful like my wife person. It was now like a jealousy thing going on between the two of us also. He will start as a joke, and then he would keep saying that, starting as a joke, calling me names and starting as a joke. And if I mention that, he would be like, I'm too sensitive, I'm oversensitive, I'm taking everything serious. So I noticed that was also starting, and it was becoming more and more, it was becoming worse until the point he was doing it in public also. So, for instance, he will be like, while we are paying, he will behave like he would take my bank card because I was now the breadwinner of the family. He would take my bank card and start screaming at me like, you want so much, I cannot afford that. And I would be like, what are you talking about? It's my money, why are you doing this? And he would go out and say, you are taking everything too serious, I was just joking. So these things, these little things were happening and happening. He was putting me down, he was humiliating me, he was not kind. And I was also starting to look for ways to get out of this marriage. I was done. I was tired. I went through hell, and I wanted to make sure I save my children because what we went through was horrible. So he continued with this emotional abuse, verbal abuse. He would say things. He will say racist things towards me or the children. You are just stupid like black people. And if I asked him, yeah, it's just a joke, why you taking everything so serious? You can also say the stupid German, why you taking it serious when I'm saying it? He was starting with this verbal and emotional abuse was very, very much popping out the head strongly. So we ended up separating. I found another job, another town. I moved out of the town, but this guy was not stopping. He was keep coming, not letting me go. He would not let me go. People, I will try to put in as much as possible in one video, so forgive me if the videos are too long, but I will try to because I want to finish this story. So I moved to another town with my little boy and the baby, and I was starting over. I didn't want to do anything with him. So but he would come back, he would go back, he would be back and forth, and like it was chaos. And the one thing I will want to emphasize here also is mostly moms. We moms want to say we are staying for children. I was always going back to him for the children, and it was the children who are suffering the most. Please, moms, let's protect our children. It's not for children we are staying, we are damaging children. There was so much damage done. My children were, it was not for children. Although I was saying at the moment, I will stay for the children. When he was coming around, the boys were happy to see him. So we'll make up again, we'll be back again. And for the children, I would be saying, it's for the children. Let's go back. Let's try to fix this for the boys. So that was our relationship now. Break up, get back together, break up, get back together. Yeah, until now he was arrested for the second time. My good people, this man was arrested for the second time. And I said, no, I'm not doing this again. It was a misunderstanding between the client and him, and it was just because of the case that already happened. The newspapers picked up the story and made another huge drama. It was another drama. So I said, no, I cannot be part of this again. I cannot go through this again. And I went for when he was released, that story was solved. That story was sorted out quickly, but the newspapers made big, huge drama out of it. And he was also again found not guilty, and then he was released again. But this time I was done. I was tired of this man's constant drama, constantly looking for drama. I was tired. So I got a protection order because he never stopped coming. His obsession is not love. We must understand narcissistic people cannot love anyone, not even their children. I will give evidence later in the video. But for now, listen, these people with this personality disorder, they cannot love. I experienced it. As I said, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm talking out of experience. These people cannot even love their own children. So this obsession he has till today is not love, it's control. He is freaking out because he cannot control me anymore. I'm not that little girl he met that was just standing by him. And that is also one thing about narcissistic people. They can smell empathic people from a distance. The first day he saw me, he saw I'm an empath. And I was feeling pity for everyone. I was standing by this man, no matter what. I was supportive. I was feeling pity for him. I was thinking, he traveled all this way to marry me, to be with me. He was so good to my son. He was this, he was that. And he knew that. And narcissistic people knows that. If you are an empath, learn about your personalities and protect yourself. I didn't know that. I just knew I'm feeling pity for everyone. I wanted to help everyone. I was depleting myself to help everyone until I found out what I am, who I am, and started protecting myself. So this man was using this against me. He knew he was a narcissist, and he knew what he was doing. He knew how to get his prey. He knew how to pull me in. And now, at this stage that I was getting smarter, he was trying to gaslight me. He was trying to manipulate me. He was trying to humiliate me. He was trying anything to break me down. This was now the devaluing stage where he was making my value. He was making me worthless so he can control me. He was making sure I feel worthless. He was telling me, no, you think you are a teacher now, you are better than anyone else, you are this, you are that, you are just a rubbish. Because he knew my history, how I always told him, I tell everyone, I'm open about my childhood. I'm telling people, I'm using my story. I grew up in extreme poverty. I had nothing. My mom was just a domestic worker, and we had this struggling. We struggled. My mom was not living a good life. I just knew I just had this desire inside of me. That's why my channel is called Desire to Live. I just had that desire to live. I just had that desire to overcome these things. And that is what was carrying me. And he was trying to break me down. He was telling me, you will just end up in those shacks like your mom. You will just end up, you think you are better. So he was devaluing me. He was trying to gaslight me. He was trying to control me. And I was now fighting back. I got a protection order. Finally, people were listening to me. Usually in Namibia, if they don't see bruises and blood and things, they don't see it as abuse. I was struggling to explain to the police, to the courts, to the social workers that this guy is extremely abusive. He's verbally abusive. He's mentally and emotionally abusive, but there were no bruises, there were no cuts, there were no beating, and people were not taking me serious. Like they were not taking me seriously. So finally, someone listened to me, and I got the protection order. So he was told not to come close to me, and I decided, no, if you end up in prison again and again, I'm not dealing with these things. Second time arrest, I'm done. I'm out of this marriage. Yes, so I moved on with my life. I started living with my children, teaching and focusing on my job, focusing on my church, because I always kept my spiritual life on hold, because I was thinking, I live this horrible life. I'm married to a horrible, abusive, alcoholic man who was accused of these horrible crimes and who is going back to prison and all these things. How can I safeguard? How can I even say I'm a Christian? How can I stand up and preach or testify or what? So I was hiding away. I was putting my spiritual life on hold because of this man. But when he was out of my life, I started going to church. I started being more involved in church and all those things. So life continued, and he was out of prison. He even got a girlfriend. He had a baby girl. They also had a baby girl. And now I thought, oh, finally he's moving on. No, my people, this man came to my church. I just saw him walking straight to the altar. They were talking to the pastor, and after church we were called, and my pastors talked to me, and we were called, and they told me that my husband, that I'm now separated with. I was separated. He has lung cancer. He's a heavy smoker. He has lung cancer, and his wish is to go back to his wife and children and die with, if he ended up dying, he dies with where he's at the right place, his wife and children. He feels like God is punishing him for leaving his wife who stood by him through all these things and children, and he feels like he's being punished. That's why he got this cancer, and he wants the pastors and everyone to pray for us so we can get back together. And I'm sitting there, we got counseling, they talked about, we know those scriptures about forgiveness, about marriage, what's God's purpose, why enemy is attacking marriages, because it's the God's covenant, and all those things were told, and we talked and pray and counseling and counseling and counseling. People, my heart was not in those things. I even thought of leaving the church because I just had that feeling inside my stomach of fear. Living with this man was constant fear, anxiety, depression, because he liked drama. He would be looking for attention. He didn't care negative attention, what attention. And I'm not that person. I like peace and quiet and stability. I grew up in that chaos. My mom was always in that chaos. I was now living my mom's life. When my dad was coming drunk home, my stepfather was coming home drunk, would be running around. It was crazy. He would be given to relatives, and all those things were happening. And now I was living the life that my mom wanted to get out of, or my mom was struggling in. Now I was repeating the same thing. I'm married to an alcoholic. It's fear, constant fear, not knowing what will come. It's that fear of not knowing what will come. When will this person be drunk? And I wanted to break that cycle. I didn't want to end up like my mom, my grandmother, my relatives, being in these horrible relationships and marriages. I didn't want that. So this counseling was not even going through to my heart. But I listened, and we were told to get back together. The first thing he asked me was to tear up the protection order. We teared up the protection order, and we are back together. And I thought, okay, now maybe it's because we are living in the capital city that is always in this alcohol, or these pubs and things, and let's move out. So we moved out to a little coastal town, and I even got a job there, and we were back together. I fell pregnant with our third baby, and I even thought maybe it's because he doesn't have an income. Let me assist him to start his little business. So we even started a business where he can fix his own cars, little garage where he can fix his own cars and feel like a man. Maybe it's because I'm the breadwinner that he's feeling like he has to humiliate me, he has to put me down. Maybe it's because of that. People, one thing about us Tamara women, we will support our men no matter what. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Sometimes we are supporting the wrong men. Sometimes we are so loyal to the wrong men. And there I am doing the thing I knew the best to do. I was brought up that way. I saw my aunties, my everyone doing that. I saw that every day. So that's, you support your man no matter what. I'm back with him. I supported him starting a little business. We'll buy the tools, we'll do this, and the life is starting to be better. He's not drinking very much. He's with the children. He's supporting the children. He's coming to the school meetings. He's super excited about the baby because this time he's not in prison. He's there to support me. He's there to be with me while I was pregnant with our baby, the third baby. We moved to the little town and I started teaching there. I don't even know if it was 6 months, my people, even 6 months or a year. This man started drinking. He was drinking in the every way. He was drinking with these places I would never go to. He was drinking, he would start fights, he would come purple, blue, both eyes. There was one time I had a picture. For years I had that picture. Both eyes beaten, blue, purple eyes. He would be constantly in fights. Now it's back to square one. He was drunk. He would come home drunk. Now the abuse is not only on me anymore. It's moved on to the children. The children were screamed at. The children were told horrible things. The children were mentally, emotionally, verbally abused. My little boy was so nervous that he was chewing on anything. If he finds a remote, he would be chewing off all the buttons. If he finds a controller, he chew off everything. And he was sweating. He was sweating and he was constantly biting his lips, and he would be shaking his lips and leg. He would be constantly shaking his leg. I took my little boy to counseling, therapy, everything, but it was tension at home. It was stress at home. Just like when at my mom's place, we were always in fear, always afraid. When will something happen? When will something happen? I was repeating the same thing here now with my children here. I was exactly repeating the same thing here at my house. So the tension was built, and my little baby was also born, and we just continued. The fights were extreme. He was putting me down. He was like humiliating me. It was worse, my people. I will not mention things here on this platform. There were horrible insults, how he was trying to humiliate me. The person I stood by when he was in prison, the person I'm supporting now to start his own business, the person whom I'm fitting and doing everything for. Now the cancer, that's another lie, my people. There was no cancer. There was no cancer. He was not having any cancer. Now, anytime he's telling me he's sick, I don't believe. Even if he show me a doctor's letter, I will not believe that man. He's a liar. Like, the word lying is not explaining how this man can lie. He was lying about this cancer, this sickness. He was not sick. There was no sickness. He was asked the second time I went back to get the protection order. He was asked to bring the doctor's letters of this cancer. He could not provide any proof that he had cancer. He had no lung cancer. He just used that to come back to me, and he used my chat to bring me to get him back, so he can get back with me. He used my pastors, he used my church, he used God, he used everything so I can get back with him. Because he knew what type of person I was. I would listen when a man a preacher, a pastor, a counselor will talk. I will listen, and I am that type of person. So he was using my weaknesses or my good characters. He was using as weaknesses. So I was back and I was in mess again. This guy was, and this is a little town. Everyone knows everyone. My son, my firstborn son, is now also a teenager. So he see these things. One day my colleague told me that he was involved in stuff. that he should not be involved. My son was in abusing substances, abusing anything. He was out of the way. My son was now out and about, meeting wrong people because the house environment was not good. I don't want my children to blame anything for what they are doing. That's one thing I don't want. I'm telling them I went through so much, but I don't blame my situations. I don't blame the childhood trauma. I don't blame traumas and my things I went through to as excuses. I don't want to be in that victim mindset. So yet even though I don't want them to blame, I know it contributed to how my children turned out. I know, but one thing I want to emphasize is we must make sure children don't use the environment, the house, what is happening at home, environment and tension and fights and all instability at home to play the victim. Nobody should be playing victim. Everyone should try to overcome traumas and childhood traumas and all those things. But if they need assistance, please give children assistance. If they need therapy, counseling, please assist the children to get that. But they must also try to seek help. Everyone, even me, even anyone who is going through abuse, mental, physical, any abuse, we must seek help and get help. We must not sit there and blame all these things and play the victim, that victim mindset. We must not encourage children to be in that victim mindset. But my son was out of order. He was using anything, substance abuse. And in fact, I later found out my husband, when I was chasing him there, I decided no more, no, from here on, no further. He started drinking with my little boy, with my son. He was doing anything, he was stealing money from me, stealing my bank card from me. I later found out from the counselings and the therapies we had where my son learned all those things, where my son was getting funds to find these substances. He would send my son to go steal my wallet, my handbag, because I would not allow him in my room. I didn't like him. He was stealing from me. He was humiliating me. He was not kind to me, but yet he didn't want to leave the house. And I didn't like him around me, because he broke all the promises he made, and he was lying, he was abusing us, he was abusing the children. So I was done with this marriage. So my son turned to substance abuse. He was in streets. He ran away from the house. And that was the turning point. My older son ran away from the house when he was, I think, 15, 16, around there. That's what I was saying in the previous video. We should not sit there and say, I'm saving this marriage, and lose our children. Our children will end up on streets. Save yourself and your children. My son ran away from the house. So me and my colleagues decided to ambush my son, find out where he's sleeping, try to catch him and bring him back. But I knew if I bring him back in this environment, it will not solve anything. So I decided, okay, if I catch him, we have to have a plan of action. So we had a plan, my two colleagues and me, and him apparently helping me now, was ambushed my son early in the morning. When we found my son, someone kicked open the door where in the shack where he was sleeping. He was carrying a little backpack, because on the street you must survive on the street. So he was carrying a little backpack, a dirty jacket, a big trouser that didn't even fit him, shoes, like he was looking horrible. He was sleeping in a little hole on the ground. There was a hole, no blankets, nothing. So we ran inside, and my colleague catch my son, and he was trying to jump through the window and run, and my colleague hold him. He was actually pulling my colleague on the ground with him. And later he stood and he cried and say, I'm not going back to that house. So as long as that man lives under that same roof, I'm not going back to that house. I said, we are not living with him anymore. It's enough, it's finished. If I am losing my children, that's the turning point. I cannot lose my children. No, not for a man. So I took my son, we drove to Windhoek. I asked my sister if I could stay a few days, and then we arranged with the embassy. We arranged that we go from the country, we moved from the country, we went and go live. I had to move out of the country. I just needed a change. I just needed to get away from this man. And the reason I took, I moved to his country was because he had cases, he had criminal cases, and he was afraid to be arrested. There was still a warrant out for his arrest. So I knew if I moved to that country, he would not follow us. So we moved, and finally, my little boy said, the house is so quiet without Papa. The house, finally, it's so quiet. Nobody is screaming and stressing. Nobody is swearing at us. And really, we first lived with my cousins. He helped us, gave us a place to stay, and then we were given our little own apartment, and it was so wonderful. We lived there, and we had nothing. We were starting over again. I had to start over again from the spoon to the blankets, but we were so happy to get away from this man. My son started making friends. They started learning the language. We started the schools. We started the studies. We were in a new country, and we were now rebuilding our life. We were now trying to heal from this abuse and this constant drama and constant chaos and all these things that we were put through. So we are now there. 3 years passed. After 3 years, he said his case was dropped. He would not be arrested if he came back. So we connected the boys and said he wanted to see them again. He came back to Germany. He came back following us. Okay, he still had the right to see his children. Still, that by then, he still had the right to see his children. So I brought the children to the train station. I offered to help him find a place because I was already living in the country. I was deleting all my Facebook platforms. I was deleting anything because this man would hack in my accounts and write rubbish on my accounts to follow me. He would be spying on me. He was just obsessed. He's still obsessed. This obsession followed us. He came to the new country, my little boy, already struggling in kindergarten to fit in, and now saw the father, and he was so happy. I said, okay, maybe I can find you a place nearby so the boys can have access to see you. For 3 days, it went well. He was happy to see the boys. The boys were happy to see him. Children are different. They forgive quickly. But I told him, no, you and me, no relationship, but you are welcome to see the children. So after 3 days, he got drunk. He started cursing and swearing at my cousin, who was my neighbor. Started with her that we are both prostitutes, we are both rubbish, we think we are somebody. And I was still in classes. I still was doing my German classes, I think it was my German classes. So I was doing my recognition, my document recognition. So I had to meet someone from AVO. It's a company that helps with documents if you want your documents to be recognized, or in a new country in Germany, you have to take your documents through so you can get studies or education service. You have to translate your documents, you have to take your documents through, and you have to send in for recognition so they can evaluate what level you are. By now, I even have a partner. I don't want anything to do with him. The boys love my partner. He's a kind, gentle, exact opposite of this crazy that we were in. Exact opposite. This person is kind, loving. He's treating me with the most respect. He's treating the boys with respect and kindness. The boys were so adoring this person, and they could not believe. They thought all German people were crazy like my ex-husband. So they could not believe meeting this man, and this person is the kindest soul. And yeah, that was what blessing we had. Like my children could see a different version of a man, that all men are not aggressive and cursing and swearing and disrespectful towards women. Some men are treating women with kindness and respect. So my children had that good example. So he came and told me, after the 3 days that I got drunk, and when I came home, he was already angry and waiting for a fight. So when I came home, he started shouting and screaming at me, "Yeah, you are coming from your boyfriend." And I told him, "No, unfortunately, now I'm coming from the offices where I was doing my documents. But yes, I have a partner. I do have someone, but I still offer to help you. I still offer to help you have a place to live. If you want to see the boys, you can still see the boys. There's nothing between us. So please, I can help you if you want. We are not together. He is his girlfriend. He is his child. So I don't see the point of discussing my relationship." So, and then it was just like throwing petrol on fire. He was going crazy. And the older boys said, "No, we are not used to this anymore. We forgot about this. If you start this, we are calling the police." And one thing about Germany, the police will not play with you. It's not like that is a social case or social workers case, that thing here in Namibia, like here in Namibia. No, in Germany, things are quick. Things are quick and serious. So my little boy started crying and hanging on him. He stopped my little boy, hold him and told him, "Your mother, if your mother wants me to be your father, she has to leave her boyfriend, then I can be your father. Otherwise, I'm not your father." Remember, I said these people cannot love anyone, including their own children. This was a little 3-year-old, 5-year-old, I don't know, my baby was maybe 4 years, 5 years old, I don't know, he was still in kindergarten when he came back. To tell your little boy, to tell your little son, little child, no matter what how much you don't like the mother, what you are going through with the mother, to tell your little child, staring him in the eyes and telling him, "I'm not your father if your mother don't break up with her boyfriend. If I cannot be with her, I'm also not your father." And he left. He left. He didn't talk to the children for days. Was it a month? That was the time COVID hit the world. So my child February, we did not know about COVID, but it was coming maybe. So my baby at kindergarten was not eating, he was not playing. The kindergarten called me and asked what's going on. The child is not the same anymore. He was already struggling, but now it's worse. He's not eating, he's crying and vomiting, and he's sick. It's like something happened. I told him the whole thing. We ran here because of this man's abuse. Now he's here and the abuse is just continuing. And they told me, cut this man off, cut the contact. He cannot do this to the children. No matter what is going on between the two of you, he should not punish the children because of that. And he left a little cowboy hat, and my baby was holding on to that hat and saying, "He will come back, he will come back. He left the hat, he will come back." He never came back. He never called the next day. At least to call the next day. When you do something when you were drunk, the next day you call and say, okay, sorry, my baby, I did this. I was just drunk. I'm sorry. No, he never called the next day. His condition was, I leave my boyfriend, my partner must get out of my life so he can get back with me. And that was not happening. That was not happening anytime soon. And that will never happen anytime soon. I don't want to get back to that cycle of abuse, and I don't want that stress in my life. So I told him, I will not. So you choose if you want to continue a relationship with your children or not. If it is based on my partner, then it's up to you. You still have the option to see them if you want. So he left, and then the COVID hit the world. I was kind of grateful because now I didn't need to go to work or go to classes. I can stay at home and look after my children. In fact, a friend of mine offered us to come live on a little village farm, so where it was a yard. Our apartment had no outside space, so in summer, in heat, in this, now we are on lockdown, so that offer to come stay at the farm was a godsend. We had a wonderful time. Like, there was no school. We were just getting up, eating, playing in the yard. My little boy forgot about this disappointment, about his father's story. He was thriving. He was a farmer. You behave like a farmer. You will get up in the morning and take the wheelbarrow and run. He's strong. He's strong for his age, and he's a outdoor person. He loves outdoor. He's wild. He's a outgoing person, and his personality came out there at that little farm. That was the best time of our time in Germany. So we spent that time, the lockdown, we spent there, and then we came back after the lockdown, and the guy started reporting me to the children's services. There is children's services in Germany where you report if the children are in danger or children are being abused. So he was reporting me, I'm abusing the children. He started the same drama. The same drama came to Germany. The same